Alright, okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to this week analysis. Okay, so
Recording in progress.
okay, so we'll get started, yeah. So I was saying that let's take a look at the events calendar first, right? Then we'll jump into the charts, highlight some opportunities. I think this week over here we may have some decent setups that we can look into, okay? Now, of course, over here, we are also having the NFP, right? Basically, the first Friday of the month. So do take note of that. Okay. This week calendar over here, we do have the focus very much on Friday. Coming in, we have NFP plus. Also the Canadian labor market data. So for those of you interested into like news trade, taking advantage of that short-term volatility, Friday definitely is the focus for this week. Okay. Also understand that as we are having the NFP itself building into Friday, most of the dollar move may go into a little bit of a consolidative phase first, and then potentially on Friday itself, that's where we kind of get that momentum coming in. Okay, so be aware of that as you're looking at opportunities this week. Okay. So let's jump into some of the charts over here. We'll start off with the dollar index. Okay, so dollar index last week had a slight confirmation in terms of the rejection down. Okay, so it kind of shrink out a little bit, on a slightly higher time frame perspective. We're expecting the dollar to weaken a little bit, potentially coming down towards 104. Again, we have this price structure over here as a diagonal, right? So this may build into something of a bigger structure of a WXY, right? So of course, we're looking at very, very conservative areas of target around 104. We did get the breakdown of this structure here. Okay, so ideally we want to see a little bit more of a continuation down, and then any sort of a corrective pullback will open up sell opportunity on the dollar. And that's something I'm focusing on for this week. Okay, this week the directional biases of now for dollar related instruments would likely be more on the bearish side of things. Then that would build in very, very nicely with the euro dollar. Okay, so again we have a little bit of a diagonal structure over here. A bit of a gap up as well with the election ongoing in Europe, right? France side. So it's a bit positive data, right? Positive impact and sentiment. But I'm waiting for a pullback, right? If you can get a decent corrective pullback towards 50 and 618 Fibonacci, okay, kind of filling that gap as well, and ideally price remains above 1.0665, then that will be a buy opportunity for the week itself. Okay, of course, also tying in with potential NFP. Okay, so that is something to look out for. Okay, yes. So overall here, okay, we are looking at dollar weakness as well. So some kind of an alignment over there. Okay. Now, GBP USD short term here, we are also looking at the pullback. Okay, perhaps the pound dollar and the euro dollar in the bigger time frame perspective may have slightly different direction of us. But this week here, we are expecting pound dollar to pull back a little bit, okay, towards 1.2735, 1.2765 area. Okay, to kind of correct this potential leading diagonal, right? This may form a three-way pullback and then maybe longer term downside. But within the week itself, that's the outlook, right? We'll be looking at short-term upside. So this one here, if you go down to maybe the lower time frame on intraday, that's where we can potentially scout for opportunities, right? Okay, depending on the strategy you get involved in, this can be an inner three-way structure. So if you can get a pullback towards maybe 15,618 of that structure, that opens up an opportunity to buy in as well. Okay, so again, those are the details that you want to keep an eye on in terms of like the strategy that you're gonna be using to execute your trade as well. Okay, but from a higher time frame H4 perspective, we are expecting that push to go higher to complete the corrective structure itself. Okay, Aussie dollar is still basically very much to me unclear at the moment. Okay, so I think overall, I think for Aussie dollar, my suggestion here is just to remain neutral, remain patient, let the market settle out. You know, whether it wants to break above or it decides to just come down. Maybe at a lower price point, we can look for buy opportunities. Okay, but where we are right now doesn't look very clear in terms of the clarity of the pattern structure itself. So my take here is just let it play out and then come back at a much later date. Okay. Dollar Canadian, we're expecting downside over here. Okay, so we're kind of looking at it from the angle where I'm expecting this huge flag to be completed. We do have this tree wave, we have that pullback. The market seems to respect that 618 very neatly at the moment. Okay, so I would say overall directional bias is to the downside. And of course, we'll be looking out for sell opportunities, right? Then you can decide to go down to a low time frame, zoom in a little bit more, okay, to start identifying areas of entry. Okay, but of course, bear in mind that this Friday we do have the dollar as well as the Canadian side of things. Okay, so any trade here, you just want to factor in the possibility where price would just not move significantly going into Friday, and the volatility will only kick in on Friday, right? So that's something you want to factor in terms of like trades that you may be taking prior to the news release itself. Okay, so yeah, I'm actually looking at, if you look at the lower time frame on like M30 H1, there are some potential sign of like trade setups coming in, right? Especially maybe on like really intraday perspective. If we can continue to get this momentum down a little bit, right? We may start to build in an area that, if we get a pullback, we can look to enter and things like that, right? Some kind of a mini double topish structure for a trade. Okay, so there are many ways you can get involved, right? That's something that really depends on individual trader. Okay, but I think over here, providing you more of like what's the overall directional bias that I'll be looking out for the week. Okay, and that would be bearish side of things for dollar Canadian. Okay, dollar yen here, overall it's still definitely bullish. The market did manage to take out this high, right? So I think right now, looking at the yen side of things, kind of any corrective pullback would still open up upside opportunity. Though the market has, kind of significantly moved to the upside. Okay, at some point in time, you just want to be very careful with Bank of Japan really intervening. But as of now, in terms of technical perspective, we'll just wait for the corrective pullback, right? If we can get that, then obviously we'll still be bullish overall. But personally, I'm not so keen in trading the yen, right? I would more of like look out for opportunities in some other pairs or even asset, instead of like focusing on the yen too much. Okay, so that also applies to like the pound yen as well as the odd yen, right? So this two, I mean, generally for me, yen pairs, I'm just gonna be staying out of that particular currency at the moment. Okay, gold here, my primary view is this, right? So my primary view is what you see on the chart right now. I'm expecting this to complete a 1, 2, 3. So short term, I'm expecting the pullback and then another pushback up. So my area of interest right now is between the 50 and 618, right? Going down to a lower time frame. This can be a completed cycle, so some kind of pullback here will provide a buy opportunity. That's what I'm looking at right now. Okay, so I'm also factoring in the possibility where it may not move much all the way until Friday. So maybe the consolidation may take really some time building into Friday before that push. So I'm observing. Okay. Anyway, today is Monday, so Monday market not rushing into things. But the direction here is pretty clear, right? Based on the structure perspective right now. Okay, so gold is definitely one of the key pairs I'm looking out for. Um, just bearing in mind of NFP. Okay, crude oil. Looking at short-term pullback. If the market can give us some sort of a confirmation, okay, with the recent development, I think we can shift this swing low a little bit higher. I will want to wait for an impulsive drop first. Okay, I think the pullback would likely come soon. Okay, and if we can get a short-term move to the downside, then we can trade the short-term pullback. Then after that, maybe the upside. Yeah, so this one here, we'll probably need to give it again sufficient time. Right now, we don't have that confirmation yet. Okay, S&P might be a short-term double top. Okay, so I'm also waiting. It's kind of similar to crude oil, waiting for the break of the neckline of a swing low to confirm the downside move. Okay, and we'll be looking at the sell side. And then S&P over here, I'm expecting the pullback to come back towards around 5360 area. Okay, so short-term opportunity to the downside. Pound Australia here, I'm pretty neutral. I want to see the breakout of this structure first. Okay, potentially a crawl pattern with a double bottom structure in mind. So this one here, I'm a little bit on the neutral side. Okay, kind of waiting for confirmation that the market can give us. Euro Canadian is quite clear, right? So this is kind of similar to the euro dollar. Okay, where we have kind of a positive sentiment in the euro side of things. Let's actually pull up a little bit more. So I'm waiting for that pullback, right? So as you can see over here, basically we can get a three-wave pullback towards the 50 and 6.8 zone. Okay, so that will be towards the 1.4660 area. We'll be looking for the buy. Okay, so Euro Canadian, if you kind of zoom out a little bit, that's the look of it. Of course, that also opens up the possibility where this buy might not, really go as high, maybe just a tiny bit, over here to correct this entire leg down. Then we get one more pushback to the downside. Possible as well, right? But I think overall right now, I'm just interested to see whether we get that short-term upside or eventually the breakout itself. I'll be waiting for the pullback, right? If you can get that, I think I'll still get involved in it, because even with the expectation of this as a three-wave move here, I think this trade here can be quite worthwhile. Okay, just balancing that risk to reward ratio idea. So Euro Canadian is something I'm looking out for. Okay, yeah, so that's where we have a couple of things here. Just quickly highlight them. I think GBP USD may have potentially something, a couple of things there, right? Yeah, so those are the highlighted ones that I think you can have it in the watch list. You can keep an eye on them. Okay, potentially building in something. Okay. Then we have, sorry, give me a while. Okay, then we have BTC, right? So BTC over here, potentially we are doing a little bit of pullback. Short term, if you're interested in buying, I think that's that opportunity to consider it. We have that gap. Obviously, this is the future price, right? So we have a little bit of a gap here. Of course, if we can get a pullback short term, that's still an opportunity. But of course, you just want to be careful, because this may still come back down one more time. We haven't really taken out this low. Okay, so looking at the bigger time frame structure perspective, we may take out that low first before the push up, right? So kind of like a 1 2 3 1 2 3, right? Then this may be a 1 2 3, taking that out and then go. So yes, that's the take on BTC over here. Okay, so for me, potentially I would, just be a little bit cautious in the upside. But if you can get some kind of this kind of structure, then that gives us more conviction that short term the market may make another push to the downside first. Okay, so that's the take on it. Okay. Yeah, so those are the view that I have. Good. Yeah, so let's just check out on some of the charts that I have. Okay. Yeah, so those are the general things to look out for. If you look at some of the global indices, S&P, I kind of talk about it. Nasdaq kind of similar in a way that we are likely looking at a pullback here. Okay, so just be a little bit patient, kind of like similar to S&P potentially doing the pullback. Nasdaq is kind of like not really going in the alignment with Nasdaq as well as the S&P 500. Okay, slightly different structure over here, but I think overall we may still be more of a bearish perspective. Okay, so I think generally U.S. equity seems to be developing some kind of a downside. Okay, as a form of pullback or retracement. Okay, so if you're looking at the U.S. market in terms of equities, maybe this week just be a little bit cautious, not overly commit to the upside itself. Okay. German DAX here, I think overall we're still looking at downside. This looks definitely very very corrective in nature, right? So we are expecting downside here, retesting the previous area. Okay. UK FTSE. Okay, so this one a little bit complex as of what is developing right now. It's still possible that we are seeing this complex structure because internally, this is still technically a valid move like that. Okay, but probably want to give it more time, right? Because as this starts to consolidate, okay, like that, probably you just wait for it to play out and then only come back when things gets a little bit clearer. Okay, so for me, I think FTSE probably just put it aside. China A50, it's likely a crawl now, pretty clear in terms of structure pattern. Okay, so if you can get a impulsive break to the upside, that would open up a buy trade opportunity, right? So this may build into, right, structurally. Okay, look at it from this angle. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that confirmation, of course, is that impulsive break, corrective pullback. Then that will open up upside. Right? I think this is pretty clear, right? For those of you interested in A50 China stocks, this structure potentially building into something. Updating on Hang Seng here. Okay, yeah, massive divergence, so I'll take it as that's the structure. Good. So over here, I think while this 5 wave may or may not be completed, right, I think there is a possibility of a short-term pullback. Okay, so I think we'll focus on this first. Okay, so this one and A50, they are sometimes quite closely correlated, not exactly the same pattern structure, but as A50 pullback or potentially completed this downside move, it might also drag the Hang Seng a little bit to the upside, right? So for now, the minimum expectation for Hang Seng here is somewhere between the 50 and 60% pullback. Okay, so what I'm looking at is potentially this can be one leg down, okay, and then after that a pullback, and then maybe perhaps one more leg down. But at least for now, in the near term, this is an opportunity that I can look out for. Okay, yeah. So again, this label here potentially can change. Again, to me, labeling is not important, right? Again, because this can just be seen as a simple three-way structure here as well. Okay, so that's on the Hang Seng side of things. Aussie 200 very much correctively sideways now, similar to Aussie dollar. So I would suggest this one probably not the clearest of things to be trading. This one looks pretty neat. Okay, just be careful. This may just come back one more time, retest the top again, and then drop. Yeah, so this one is quite clean as well, right? So we're looking at it where this can be just a regular flat structure. Okay, so some kind of ABC structure, and then complete the correction of a 5-wave move, right? Then ABC, most of the time this ABC would then come back and retest where wave 4 is. And then after that, another push up, right? So short term here for Switzerland side of things would likely still see downside. Okay. Good. Right. So generally for me, what I'll be focusing a little bit more this week here is definitely some of the major pairs. I think it's starting to build up a little bit more clarity. The major pairs has been kind of like, consolidating for some time. You can see over here, right? Since like mid-June all the way. So for the past like 2-3 weeks, the major pairs has been consolidating. We finally got a little bit of a break, or say breakout. Okay, so if you can get a pullback, then that will opens that opportunity that we can look to trade it. Okay, yeah, so overall, if you look at it from a bigger time frame perspective, it's still in the consolidation, right? It's still in the major consolidation. But at least for the short term, there is that slight opportunity we can keep an eye on, right? Including gold, right? Okay, we are still in a massive consolidation here, you can see. But short term, we can still have that opportunity available. Okay. Cool. So again, those that are tagged over here, those are the ones that I'll kind of like highlight and say that it's worth noting. But definitely you still want to wait for the setup to come to you. Yeah. And of course, this Friday we do have NFP, so that's something you want to keep an eye as well. Okay. Good. So yeah, generally that's from my side. Okay. Just some quick note here. For those of you who okay. For those of you who haven't really, sorry about that, the background. For those of you who haven't or I would say not aware of the daily market analysis that kind of provide, you can actually get your free trial over here. You just go over to thetradingdose.com/trial. I do provide a 7-day trial where you can gain free access, see if this is something that may value add to your trading. Okay, and then if it is, you can obviously then continue with your subscription and things like that. Okay, so just highlight for those of you who are not aware, this is a free trial that I'm providing, so just hop on and see if there's something that may be value added to your trading. Okay, so basically every day you just receive a report covering like the directional bias, some of the key levels, and some market commentary that I have over here. Okay, yeah, so this week generally those are the focus that I have. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, yeah, that's all from me for today's outlook over here. Okay, keeping it pretty straightforward and concise. Okay, on this kind of weekly session. Okay, so yeah, generally that's all from me. All the best for this week's trading. Okay, and I'll see you guys in the next session itself. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.